So it's now 9:30, so we'll call the meeting of March 24th, 2021 of the First Nations Relations Committee to order. And our first item of business will go to our CAO, Mr. Leach, for introductions of new staff.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's a really great day, long awaited by the First Nations Relations Committee. Appreciate everyone's patience. COVID was no help to that, but happy to, excuse me, introduce Tina Mclean. She is our new First Nations, well, new, she is the first inaugural First Nations Relations Coordinator for the SRD. Thrilled to have her. Tina comes to us from the Comox First Nation. She was had been working there for many years, and I'll let Tina speak for herself a little bit here. But Tina is mainly here to support this First Nations Relations Committee and the directions that come out of it, and as well as board resolutions and directions. So introduce Tina, and Tina can say hi to everyone.
Good morning. First of all, I thank you, David, and thank you, Chair Charlie Cornfield. I would like, as David said, I'm Tina Mclean, First Nations Coordinator, and I'm from the Comox First Nation. I have about 10 years of working in administration for First Nations. I worked for Comox First Nation, which is about 9 years, and started as office manager, housing, and then housing coordinator, guardian coordinator, assistant administrator, and the administrator. I've also worked as operations manager in land and resources. I'm honored to be the selected candidate and to implement the work by this committee and maintain and develop good communications with the other First Nations. And I'm looking forward to getting started and it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Well, Tina, welcome. It's good to see you again. I believe I met you down at the Comox First Nations office when we used to have our meetings with Nicole and council. So welcome aboard. Martin, anyone else you wish to say hello? And
oh yeah,
maybe just go around the table and give a little sort of blurb of who you are.
Sure. Martin Davis, Mayor of Tassus and Vice Chair of this committee currently, and I'd love to welcome you, Tina. Thanks for joining us.
Somebody's clicking on. I can't see pictures for a number of you. Must have your video turned off.
Tina, this is Ron Kerr, City Councilor, Campbell River, a director on the SRD, and welcome on board.
Okay, who's Julie? Are you around?
Good morning. Welcome, Tina. I am one of the directors on this committee, coming to you from the Hattah-Sitchinikit First Nation. So I live in Zabalis, and just really happy to have a coordinator and move forward. So welcome, and really excited to get going.
Okay, Kermit.
Hi Tina, I'm Kermit Dahl. I'm a councillor for the City of Campbell River and the alternate for Councillor Claire Moglove today.
So, Mr. Chair, the only person left out there for, I guess, our last meeting is our associate director there,
Kevin Jules.
Kevin Jules, and it doesn't look like Kevin's on today, but this will be as of our next First Nations relation. Oh, there's Kevin. Sorry, he just said I'm here. There you go. So as of our next First Nations Relations Committee, Kevin will be a full voting member of the board.
Right.
So a first for Tina and a last for Kevin.
Yeah. Are you there, Kevin?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was a little late. I
Oh,
kind of spilled coffee on myself as I was getting ready, so it took me a minute.
well, you'll have to sue McDonald's or whatever, isn't that what they do? Anyway, we were just in the process of welcoming Tina Mclean as our new staff person for the First Nations Relations Committee. And Tina comes to us from Comox First Nations, where she worked for the last 9 years for the First Nation in various, from office manager to land and resources person. So we were just introducing ourselves to Tina, so maybe you might want to, well, Tina, maybe you can say hello and that'll turn your picture on for Kevin to see. And Kevin, when you can turn your camera on, that'd be great. Say hi.
Hello, Kevin. I'm congratulations on the great work that's happened between your nation and SRD. And like I said before, I'm honored to be the selected candidate to help move the work forward of the committee, and I'm looking forward to working with everyone.
Thank you. Yes, pleasure meeting you, and hello to everyone around the table. Kevin Jules, I'm the elected Vice Chief of Cayuga-Checklisset First Nations, and yeah, I've been an observer for the Strathcona Regional District, and I become a full member come April 1st, and definitely looking forward to it, and welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kevin and Tina. Dave?
Yes.
Mr. Leach, our CIO. Sorry, I should call you by your title. Is Jim Abram not on the First Nations relation anymore?
No.
Do we not have any electoral area directors?
I guess we don't.
Hmm.
Jim was on our previous last year's appointments, but
right.
Yeah, Tom can confirm that. But no, I don't think we have any EAs on our.
That is correct. We have no electoral area directors currently appointed to this committee.
So, could you remind me, Tom, when we get to the right or appropriate business when we talk about our terms of reference, that that runs contrary to the terms of reference of the committee, and we will need to rectify that.
Certainly, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So we've called the meeting to order. The next item of business is adoption of the public agenda.
Move agenda.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Anybody want to add anything? Seeing none. Oh, is there anyone opposed? Hearing none. Carry that or consider that a carried motion. The Tina, just I'm not sure how aware you are of our process, especially on virtual meetings, that when a motion is moved and the discussion is finished, rather than asking those in favor and having to wait for the results, we usually just ask is if there's anyone opposed, because if you're not opposed, then you're automatically in favor. And so that's sort of the flow of the meeting that we operate under right now. So adoption of previous meeting minutes. Item E.
I'll move adoption of the meeting minutes from February 24th.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none. Any opposed? Carried. Item F, business arising. Anyone have any business out of the last meeting?
Chair?
Yes.
If I could maybe just make a little report on the gift that
right.
we're
Very good.
working on.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Go ahead,
I don't
Director
know.
Kerr.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not sure I don't think there was anything else on the agenda in reference to it. So we have all the wood in. It took a long time getting to us. So we were only able to do some preliminary work and on the project, but now we've got all the wood in place, and the creator of it is working at this moment on it. So hopefully it'll all be finished by the end of the month or soon after.
Okay. Thank you for the update. I think as everyone is aware of what we're doing for the April 1st, our first meeting in April, rather, which will be on the 8th, I think it is.
14th, Mr. Chair, I believe.
Oh, 14th. Oh, yeah, right. I keep forgetting there's a long weekend in there that's changed the schedule. So good. I have nothing to report as your chair. So staff reports, Clahoose First Nations addition to reserve.
Move receipt of that report.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
Thank you. So discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, this ATR referral was sent to the board, and the board referred it to the First Nations Committee as well as the Electoral Area Service Committee without much direction at all. So thrown Tina right into the deep end here and asked her to prepare something in terms of this. She's done her best, but I'll let Tina speak to it, and then looking for further committee direction on what kind of information they may like.
Okay.
Tina? Tina, you there?
Tina is muted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. So for the ATR for Clahoose First Nation is an area of they already own under a numbered business, and they are looking already, and they're looking to do an addition to reserve. And so I have reached out to them. I have not heard of a response as of yet. I will continue to work on that, and I believe that working with Clahoose First Nation, that this is an opportunity for us to be able to move forward in developing communications and a relationship. And at this point in time, there is no policies or procedures related to when we receive an ATR referral, and that should also be looked at and built.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion? I'm having trouble seeing hands too here, so I can't tell if you've got your hands raised or not. Julie, Director Colburn, sorry.
Good morning. So further to that report of having, or the suggestion of having a policy to address this process, I think that as time moves forward and there are more additions to reserve coming on board, and also Treaty Nations and their considerations, I really think that this is a proactive, positive way to go about this. So I would take staff's direction on and research on how to build that policy and what should be included from different regional districts here on the island and also in the interior. There's probably some really good information out there already. I think that it's difficult with a board this large to one-off each and every one of these, and as they're pressed more and more, and the growth of these nations is obvious, and housing and all of those things are needed. I think it's a really important step. So I'm absolutely would move the motion subsequently to this report. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, we're on receipt right now. And what I would suggest we do is have discussion on it, because this is actually a pivotal step. I know we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 additions to reserve inside the boundaries of the city of Campbell River. And so it would benefit us. I know there's additional ones that will be coming up in due time. So if we could have discussion around it, and then would do a subsequent following to deal with any points that anyone brings up. So save that one, Julie. And Director Davis.
Yeah, mine's more a question. Just trying to figure out how we fit into all this. Maybe you could answer this, Charlie, or maybe you could, Tina. I'm just wondering how historically regional districts have dealt with these kind of issues. Is it always ad hoc? Has there never been any kind of policy? Or I see some guidance from the federal government, but not a whole lot. So who would like to answer that?
Well, maybe I'll turn it over to staff, but in my experience working with the SRD and with the former CVRD as well, adds to reserve have been very minimal, if at all. And yeah, hence there's a lack of policy because we haven't had to deal with them.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, just to follow up on that, to Director Davis' comments, in my time here, so in the 6 years, we've only had the one, and I would kind of characterize it as a train wreck with the Cloetsis. We didn't have a policy. We were dealing with ad hoc. It didn't go well to start. I think we recovered nicely through establishing a committee, but I don't think that's a path we want to continue following, and therefore we're bringing a recommendation about a policy because, yeah, as the chair has said, we haven't had many of them, but there's likely more on the way, and I think we need a new path. We don't want to recreate the issues we had with the Cloetsis.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further comments from the board? I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to leap in. We had referred and put on the First Nations in the report. The second part is the addition to reserve from Indigenous Services Canada, and attached to the actual proposal is the addition to reserve creation policy, which is federal. And I went through that part, and there is, I think it's under section, page 17, 16, local governments, under Directive 10, item 9.0. It talks about local governments. And I found it extremely useful when we look at this, because this is, let me just get to page 17 on the report, and you guys may want to follow on as well. 17, come on, 15, 16. Yeah, where it says local governments, there's a general section. I'll just wait till Tom scrolls there. It's page 16 of 48. Yeah, if you go up just a little bit, Tom.
Is that 16, page 16 in the document?
Yes, page 16 of the document. And there it is, under section 9.0, local governments. And I found this extremely useful, well detailed. And if you notice that number 3, it says, well, local governments must be consulted. We have no general or unilateral veto with respect to reserves creation proposals. Where concerns arising, it can proceed. And so this explains pretty much what has to go on. The federal government is not going to play an active role, and they say that here. On the other hand, they liken it to 2 neighbors, and that there is consultation required with local governments, and they talk about agreements. We have in Campbell River a service agreement signed off with the First Nation, and that's what we operate under. Consultation, there's a whole section on consultation, and the First Nation is supposed to encourage, or is encouraged to initiate discussions with the local government as early as possible. That's under number 7. If you go down under consultation, Tom. So initiate that. And I think now we get into the difficult part about where it's going to roll into our terms of reference. So this document should be used to guide, and the expectation is that the electoral area in this case should be working closely with Clahoos and in terms of working out what is required, what's the purpose and function of the ad to reserve, because without that information, it's hard to make any kind of recommendation. But is it, and I'm going to put this to the CAO, is it our role to make a recommendation on the actual proposal? Or is it our role to make a recommendation as to what course of action should occur with the appropriate people in the SRD?
Well, based on our experience with the Coetzee First Nation ATR, I'm not sure exactly what our role was. We're requested to provide input. We provided that. We provided opinion, and at the end of the day, as I understand it from working with the chief, is that ultimately the federal government was looking for support from the SRD. That's what it got down to. Is now again, whether that's actually required, I can only speak to what we did with the Coetzee, and they did, and the board ultimately did provide that a letter of support, and there was a lot of stuff in between the referral and that letter of support. A lot of discussions about what's going to happen. There was no agreement between us, though. There was many reports. So it's tough to pin exactly what our role is, but it seems to me at the end of the day, they are looking for support. So how that's defined, from today to when and if that letter is provided, that's tough for me to say.
Okay, as you go through this document, you know, further on and later on, it talks about dispute resolution. It talks about agreements being signed with the First Nation. When we look at Clowetsy's, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the First Nation. It was Tom Smith that came and made a presentation to the board. So they took, and following this process that the federal government has laid out, they came to us with their proposal. And very early on in the add to reserve, so they followed this. The federal government will only get involved if it's to provide, say, a facilitator to where we can, as neighbors, we can work out our differences or at least identify them and work to resolution so that we can come up with something that works for everyone. In other words, it recognizes each concerns and addresses and deals with those concerns. So they look at this as a negotiated process through where we come up with something that maybe not everybody is going to be 100% in favor, but if we can live with it. And I think that's what the goal of this whole big policy is. So I think it would be important that this paper or this procedure that the federal government has done would be good to get a staff report of what it means. And I mean, I've gone through these, but it's a big document and there is lots of steps. And I think we should base our policy largely on this document because this is our legal direction from senior government as to how you deal with these issues. And so maybe we could have staff go through and say, what are the steps, and come back with some recommendations on roles and responsibilities. So I think we need to really clearly identify what's the role of the SRD, whose function is it? Is it the electoral area that reserve edition comes on? What's the role of the whole board? Then who initiates these points in the document here? I'm not sure I'm making a whole lot of sense, but I found this document very helpful to say this is what you're supposed to do, etc. But it's buried in here. So what we need to do is take out the parts that are reference what our role is. And I'm assuming that was what would be incorporated into a policy. Would I be correct?
Yeah, I think you're correct there. The intent of creating the policy in the report would be to identify the things that you've just outlined.
Okay. So it was a long read, going through the document and trying to pluck parts, but I thought it was really important because it's the first time I could have seen where it says that local government is required to be consulted, or must be consulted. And then they go on to define what that consultation would look like. So I think it's a really important document. And yeah, so that's all I have to say. Is there anyone wishing to add further comment? Seeing none, so I'll call a question on receipt. Is there anyone
got
opposed?
His hand up.
Oh, okay, I can't tell. Go ahead, Director Davis.
He's muted.
You're mute.
I'm sorry. No, I
It's
thought
okay.
Ron had his hand up and then he put his hand down, so I put my hand up. I was waiting to hear what Ron had to say. I guess certainly it says we need to be consulted. It sounds like where the rubber hits the road with us is really around municipal services agreement. But regarding the consultation, like the local director cannot sit on this committee, but she should be the one taking the initiative in extending those contacts, I would think. So I'm just wondering how we're going to work that in relation to her and the First Nations Relation Committee.
Well, I think as Tina said, she's working on reaching out and establishing contacts. So I think we've got that taken care of.
Okay, so what would be the role of the local director whose jurisdiction it is in terms of the regional district? I'm just curious because there's two parallel.
I don't. Again, just basing on past experience, this is a referral to the board, and to be honest with you, going through what we had in Area D, there isn't much of an individual role for that director. It's the board.
Okay, I'm just looking for some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Director Colbert. Yeah, I saw your hand, Julie.
Thank you, Chair. And I believe that relationships between First Nations and municipalities or electoral areas really is what we're definitely building right now with this committee and with just relationship wise. But I do think that the process is helpful to have a policy, because there are times when, for instance, with the Talitis, and there is no area for them. They haven't been, they were traditionally in that territory. However, not recently. It had a community in that territory. So that's why I just thought I'd put that in there, that this is so important in case there isn't that relationship already, and there isn't something built. With the Klahoos, I think that the electoral area director does have a really good relationship with them, and probably are having conversations, but just as a backgrounder. Thanks.
I think that's what the policy needs to clearly identify, as what is the board's role and what is, say, the electoral areas. We don't involve, for instance, in add to reserves inside the city of Campbell River, even though we sit on the SRD board. There's really no referral to the SRD because it's wholly within the city. So that's a different thing, but where you get out into the electoral areas and there is no sort of community to community arrangement, we have to rely on the electoral area directors, I think, a lot more. And so I think the policy needs to define that. Now, whose hand is up? Ron Kerr. Director Kerr, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. You covered, the reason I took my hand down previously is you actually covered in your talk a lot of the questions and things I was going to say, and Mr. Leach answered them. But I think that, one thing within the SRD we got to be aware of is that, we're a huge net full of different types of fish. And, while we talk about electoral areas and municipal areas in different ways, in some cases, for example, area D, we've got electoral area, which is many, many times larger than, some of our towns and communities. So, in some ways, I think it comes down to capacity. I mean, Campbell River probably has the most capacity for dealing with these issues outside of the SRD. But, just to define it as this is electoral area and it should be done a certain way, and this is a municipal area and it should be done, that really doesn't address the fact that they have different capacities and are entirely different situations. The SRD is such a strange animal that that we have to really, break that up and look at it rather than just having blanket assumptions.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm hoping that a policy paper would clearly identify how the SRD functions relative to additions to reserves. Director Colburn?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering if after we've had an opportunity to review this policy or in the making of this policy, if it is going to be referred to EASC and the Municipal Services Committee, or if it would come to the full board in that. I'm just wondering process-wise.
I would say that we are a committee of the board, and that's who we report to. EASC is represented on the board. Municipal services are all represented on the board, so there's no sense adding an extra step in there. They can always take it back to their respective committees and provide feedback at the board table.
As well, I might add, Mr. Chair, on this one, the board referred it to both this committee and EASC. So when Tina reports to EASC, she'll kind of fill in the gaps of what we're doing at First Nations relations. So,
right.
And then pull those two things together, and we'll get something forward to the board.
Right. Are we still on receipt, Tom?
Yes, indeed you are.
Okay. So any further discussion on receipt? I'm going to take a leap of faith here. Tina, did you want to add any comments, or Kevin, Jules?
I believe that you guys have discussed everything that I was thinking about, but I believe that this is a great opportunity to have these discussions with Cluckoos and build that relationship at a staff and electoral level, and that developing this policy is a great opportunity to do that. And yeah, and you guys have covered off everything else, and it was a good discussion.
Okay. So hearing nothing further on receipt, call a question. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Item B, that the committee recommend that staff develop a policy for the board's consideration that addresses the process for dealing with addition to reserve proposals.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on it? Any hands? I think we've had a lot of discussion on it. Oh, Director Davis?
My only concern, I'm just flagging it for staff again, is the interaction between the local electoral area director in this process, seeing as it's in her area.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we've taken plenty of notes, so we'll incorporate all the comments into the report.
Okay, and my only comment would be that we should be basing our policy on the add to reserve process under that's done by the federal government.
Right.
So, okay, if there's nothing further on the thank you. Your hand's now up, Director Colbert.
Thank you for that, Chair. And I do think it's important, doing a little bit of research into, maybe what some other regional districts have done. Of course, I trust that staff is always, doing that, but there may be some good things to flag coming out of that, and not reinventing the wheel, just, seeing what else is out there.
Yeah,
I'm a firm believer in R&D, not research and develop, but rob and duplicate. So if there's really good stuff out there, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, anything further? On the motion, is there anyone opposed? Carried. Hey, we've got assigned our first task to Tina. Okay, so on item 2, the First Nations Relations Committee goals for 2021. On the receipt of the CAO's report.
I'll move receipt.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, quickly, if I might. So again, Tina's just been here for a few weeks, and you know, one of the things I've asked her to do right off the bat is dig up the goals, the work plan that we had developed. If folks remember, way back, we had a terms of reference for the committee that was, you know, quite limited and didn't enable us to do much of a work plan. The committee supported revision in the board of those terms of reference that gave us a much more broad perspective of what we're to work on. Then we kind of forward that into a work plan for the coordinator to do. That was great. The board supported hiring that person. That was great. COVID hit. That wasn't great. And now we have Tina, and so Tina has looked at this and kind of refreshed that our goals for 2021. Tried her best to look at those and give some kind of dates and timelines for when she believes we could bring these things forward. Of course, the ink's not dry on this, and the committee has already given her one more thing to add to the goals for 21. So high level, and but she just wanted to. She hasn't had much time, obviously, but she's brought this forward for a discussion with the committee.
Okay. Tom, you're going to bring it up and open it up. So, who's going to speak to the slides that are up here? Mr. Leach, Director Davis?
Well, if Tina has something to add, she's welcome to, and if directors have questions, we're happy to answer them.
To me, it sorry. To me, it looks good so far. I mean, it's a good place to start. Just the thing about identifying all First Nations located in the SRD boundaries. I remember making a request to the board office, the regional district, sorry, and not getting a response on this. So that's just a very good basic place to start, and I'd be happy to see that.
I believe it's posted in the portal, is it not, Dave?
Again, yeah, we try to populate as much information in the portal to help encourage directors to go there. It's a great resource for you that's likely a little bit underused by directors.
I think
Thanks.
it's some of it is not started in terms of the base knowledge. And this goes back to the terms of reference for the committee. It wasn't a doing committee. It isn't our responsibility to come back and say, here, this is what how you handle this issue or how you handle that issue, but rather to provide the directors with knowledge and information. So building that base knowledge was our first goal, building the foundations for good relations, which meant define what good relations are. And do you want to scroll to the third one too, Tom, please? I think there's a third right there, building resources, which now that we have a staff person on, that's helping to build those resources so that we can get on to creating good relations, which I think is really important. Under item, can you go to the terms of reference, Tom, that was included in the staff report? Please, yeah. Item 3.0, committee structure. If you notice, membership on the committee is limited to not more than 6 board members. and a cross-section of municipal, electoral area, small community, large community, and treaty First Nations interests on the board. And we don't have that right now. So CAO.
Well, I'm looking at it, and I'm respectfully going to say that some may disagree with that, even though I know what your intent is. Technically speaking, we are satisfying that, even though I think you likely disagree with that. And if it's something that the committee would like to bring up with the chair for the board, of course we can revisit that. I'm looking at our member 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, we only have 5 members on.
Currently,
Charlie?
that's correct.
Yeah, so
5 members plus Kevin.
Kevin, so that's 6, correct? Yes, and Kevin will be a full member. So we'll have populated all 6. So,
but not all sectors.
Right, now the language is a little loose there. If it's an issue the committee wants to bring up with the chair and the board, we certainly can.
We're on receipt, correct, Tom?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And so where did my agenda go on my computer? Anyway, while I find it under receipt, I think that this is something that we need to do. So I may pass the gavel to my Vice Chair Davis when the time comes to make a subsequent motion. So is there anything more on receipt on our committee goals for 2021? On receipt, seeing none, is there anyone opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 2B, endorsement of the updated timeline. Director Colburn?
I would make that motion.
Second.
Timeline.
Okay. Discussion on the timelines? CAO, any comments?
Nope.
Oh, Director Colburn, your hand came up.
Hi. I'm just wondering, with direction, said, to Saber, does that adjust this timeline at all with the last item that we passed?
Yeah, I mean, these are high level, and as long as the committee is aware of that. The board has supported the First Nations Relations Coordinator as a part-time position, so Tina's 3 days a week. These are high level goals that as long as the committee understands, as well as all the other committees, that I know there's always issues about developing a work plan, and then every time we have a committee or board meeting, 3 or 4 things are added to that, which makes it difficult. So this is just a high level, guide document that Tina's to work from, and then we make decisions on priorities of what things come up. For example, ATR, there's a timeline associated with the referral, and so it'll probably rise to the top of Tina's list on there, and so on and so forth. So as long as we're under the understanding this is a high level timeline, I think we're happy with that.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to ensure that there wasn't so much pressure, and then every meeting we have adding more things, and then I just really understand capacity issues, and just wanted to highlight that everything we do add puts this back just a little bit more.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else's hands up? No, the only thing I can see is that we have a set time limit for response to the ATR, and I don't think that the response should wait on us to develop a policy first. So I think the response needs to be crafted and by staff, or at least the response to the ATR needs to be developed by staff working with whomever is required in order to, and then they to bring it back to the board for endorsement within that time frame. And concurrently, they can be working on a policy. Would that be a fair enough statement, Dave?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So the updated timeline for First Nations Relations Committee goals, anything else to be discussed? Okay, no hands. Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
I think we're correspondence.
Yep. Item number 1, the Comox Valley
Chair.
Community Benefits Agreement. Director Colburn?
Sorry, I just thought that you needed something else from this committee and that you were going to step down.
Oh, right. Sorry. Thank you. I should have brought. Yes, I was.
Just a
Yep. No, thank you. Well, you could too. It doesn't matter that the item of representation or lack thereof by East membership on the board be brought up to the board for resolution and confirmation.
I can make it subsequent. I thought that's what you were looking for,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Okay. I guess the subsequent is we're asking the board to address the issue of absence of electoral area director on First Nations Relations Committee. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Just waiting until it gets typed up.
Address the issue. Yep. I said absence of electoral area representation.
Well, I think, yeah, I think the issue of electoral area representation, actually, even if we just had representation on FNRC, personally, like, and we're going to have to change, again, our terms of reference slightly because it includes Kevin's role before as was a different status.
Mm-hmm.
Right, as well. So, but I agree, it's good enough.
Okay.
And
I'm not sure how to address that part you just referred to there. We want him to be on the First Nations Relations Committee,
right.
so we're looking at expanding the committee.
Well, he's already on it. That's one of the 6, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so, but his status on the committee is different than a full-blown director. But that will change April 1st.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that'll take care of itself.
That they choose to participate on our committee.
Okay.
Right. And do you want, shall that go with the chair's report to the board, or will that happen at the next board meeting?
Yeah, it'll come to the next board meeting. Yep.
Okay. Not today.
No.
Need
Okay.
a seconder?
Yes, we do.
Second.
Thank you. So any further discussion? Seeing none, is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we can go on to correspondence. Oh, I guess was one other thing though, and because it was referred to our board, did we pass one on Clahoos First Nation addition to reserve?
Yep.
That we passed the recommendation that the policy, that they develop a policy for additions to reserves, but we didn't really talk about the Clahoos addition to reserve, and that other than that I said we should be going with that response is time sensitive and needs to be developed by staff
And Mr. Chair, I
without
think we
policy.
will. Yeah, we will. Again, Tina is looking to touch base with the First Nation to provide some more information back. So,
Do you want a specific motion from this committee that says to develop it without a policy?
I think that was inherent in the referral here. So our intent is to bring back a recommendation once Tina has some more information to provide.
Yeah.
It's tough for her to bring that without having touched base with them.
Okay, so no motion on that required.
Yeah, no, we're fine there.
Okay. Sorry if we're wandering a little bit. I just want to make sure we get everything done. So anything, okay, so correspondence now, item I, Comox Valley Community Benefits Agreement.
Sorry, Chair, do we do a motion to receive all correspondence and poll? I'm not sure about the protocol here.
I was just going to do them one at a time.
Fair enough.
I think we need to figure out what we're going to do with each one of these items. And seeing as how Tina comes from Comox First Nation, she can perhaps give us a little backgrounder or
Move
some.
receipts of the news release from Civic Info BC regarding the ratification of community benefits agreements between Comox Valley Regional District and Comox First Nation be received.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
Thank you, Chair. And I do have background on this benefits agreement in that this relationship has been moved forward very strongly. I was the administrator in 2017. That's when I started, and the CAO Russell Dyson started at the same time. And at that time, there's a few different parts to this. There was an application for a 3P for there was Comox First Nation, there was the regional district and Village of Cumberland, and this was it was received and we got the funds, and then Cumberland decided to pull out, and then it changed the scope, so the money was pulled back. And so from there was discussions and meetings, and so this 3P had to do with in the Southlands, and the Southlands is by Union Bay, Royston, Cumberland, and Comox First Nation owns 2 woodlots and has some parcels of land they'll receive if treaty is ratified. So there is no services to those. And so there's discussions with the regional district and bringing out services. So when 3P fell through, those discussions still carried forward. The other part is that there is the Comox First Nation Reserve is in between the town of Comox and the city of Courtenay in the regional district that provides water and sewer. There is water and sewer lines that go through the Comox Road or the Dyke Road that goes right through our IR, our Indian Reserve, and that was taken, and it wasn't like this happened years ago. So with that, being mindful, and there's updating and work that needs to be done to this infrastructure, the regional district has been meeting with Comox First Nation ongoing to discuss how this can be been done historically. Can you hear me?
You
Yep.
can now.
Okay. And so they acknowledge the wrongs that were done historically, but they also would, their first option that they would like to do is to have update their services, their infrastructure that is going through our IR and not go around it. So there was a lot of discussions, and that's where part of the benefits agreement comes from. So the background is the one in the south that has the 3P fell through. So we have some woodlots out there and some treaty lands that we may receive, and we need services. And then the other part is the infrastructure going through the reserve, the existing reserve, and that they would like, the regional district would like to update them and maintain them and do some work to them. So there was discussions on how to do that. So that's where the benefits agreement comes from. And there was a lot of meetings, and there was a lot of a lot of butting heads. Let's just say that a lot of those conversations were not easy conversations. So I'm glad to see that this did come to fruition. There was a lot of work in relationship building that went along with this, and it wasn't always easy. There was a lot of bumps and bruises along the way.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Further discussion? Now we just have this for receipt right now, correct? So if no one else has got, I wanted to just have a few questions to Tina. So the community benefits agreement, is that only created when it's about resolving an issue like a sewer line or a water line? Or can a community benefits agreement be struck to build on relationships? Can it be a much broader, or does it have to be specific to one particular project or item?
No, a community benefits, a CBA can be done. I believe in whatever terms that each of them come to an agreement on. This comes with a component, I believe, of financial and infrastructure. So an economic portion and an infrastructural portion. And no, a CBA can be done. It's up to the individuals, the two parties.
And just to follow up on that, the Connected Coast project, I'm not sure that you're familiar with the SRD's role in the Connected Course to put subsea fiber to all local communities, First Nations, population centers, from Prince Rupert all the way down and around Vancouver Island and the mainland coast. Would it be advisable to have, for instance, to take maximum benefit of that bringing the fiber to the shore, then it needs somebody else to take that fiber and the information to distribute it in the community. So would that be an example of where a community benefits agreement could handle the negotiate, or at least the negotiations with First Nations? And I'm looking, say, at, for sake of argument, a Hadasat in Zabalas, that would there be a community benefits agreement that Zabalas could enter into, or the regional district could enter into with the Ahadas band about, hey, this is something that benefits both our communities together, and they would have reach an agreement under that? And is that something that the SRD should be doing?
Well, Mr. Chair, you're kind of stealing some of my thunder for later today.
Oh,
so, because I have, lots of exciting things on that exact point. So, and we have a number of agreements and in partnerships out there. So, if you hold tight for a couple hours, I got some good stuff for you.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking that the portal that we talked a little bit about under the work plan, which was the repository of information and examples, that as a subsequent we should direct, and I'm not sure that it needs to be a subsequent motion, but the Comox Valley Benefits Agreement, my opinion, should be posted as an example of CBAs. So we should have under the portal a grouping for community benefits agreement. And then this one could be added to that database, so that if Director Davis in Zabalas or Director Anderson wanted to enter into a CBA, they could look at a number of different examples from around the province, not just from here. Is that a fair comment?
Yep.
And you don't need a motion for that, do you?
No.
Okay. So does anyone else have any discussion on community benefits agreement? Seeing none on receipt. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Number 2, Kwakiutl First Nation District of Port Hardy Relationship Agreement.
Move for speed.
A second. Thank you. So discussion? Staff?
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chair, no.
Okay. Anything any directors have to add? No, I just thought this one was a particularly good one too, and then this would be posted in the portal somewhere as well, for under relationship agreements.
Yeah, we try and populate and post as much on the director's portal as is relevant. So yeah, all this information will go up.
Okay. And item 3, Lillooet and Village of Pemberton Forest Agreement. For receipt.
I don't think
Did you call the question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did. I asked if there was any opposed, I thought.
That was for number 1.
I stand corrected. Okay, on item 2, is there anyone opposed? Item carries. Lillooet First Nation Village of Pemberton, the forest agreement. Motion to receive.
Correspondence.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? Nobody wishes to comment. Okay. So, Director Davis. Yep. Oh, and Director Colburn.
No, I'm just going to say this is great. It's timely, certainly in our context, because our community is working towards some sort of a community forest agreement with Mclean First Nation. So I'll definitely be reading this over with great interest. Thanks for bringing it forward.
Okay. Yeah, I was surprised at the volume of the cut of 11,000 meters a year. It's a large cut. Director Colburn.
Thank you, Chair, and I will, just kind of, Director Davis said pretty much what I was going to say. However, I know in the context of the smaller communities that, and I can say from personal experience, trying to get one of these has been a task and an undertaking that really requires a lot of persistence, and you get no's a lot. So the fact that one of these is going through and has been advertised and there's a press release about it gives me hope that our fight for the last 6 years maybe could possibly be coming to fruition. So I think it's a good news story, and I'm definitely going to look forward to having some more conversations with the regional manager in our area. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? Don't give up hope, but when you're in, this is Pemberton, but don't give up hope, Director Colburn. The coast is different from the interior in terms of tenures, where we have much more tree farm license, which is an area-based tenure that's already there. It becomes difficult to remove it from that area-based tenure. There's a lot more to it for the government in terms of compensation to licensees than there is to, say, straight Crown land or that's included under BC timber sales. So some places it goes a lot easier because it's less complicated. So just keep at it. Director Davis.
Yeah, you sort of took some of my comments there, because that's what we're dealing with right now, is trying to get a piece of the TFL carved off, and there is no political process for that right now, but higher levels of government have advised us that they are looking at that as well. And how that works in terms of compensation and all that, I have no idea. But I'm hopeful that there will be some changes coming in the near future, which will make things like this easier. And also there's the issue of capacity in establishing a community forest, because I know in working with our local First Nation, they don't appear to have a lot of capacity to work with us on this. So we're taking the lead on it, and then we'll bring it back to them for comments and possible ratification. So that's how we're dealing with it right now on those two fronts. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. One of the most successful community forests is out in Powell River, and they have paid staff to operate it because you're going to need a registered professional forester to seal off everything, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you need people that understand the business. That capacity is, they have the retired district manager that looks after their community forest, and a board of directors as well. So yeah, it's not just as easy as running out, and yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through.
We're also dealing with a local timber company that has great interest in what we're doing, and they would love to get into the ground floor. So we have them going to bat for us as well. Yeah.
And then we had, just for your interest's sake, we had a presentation from Western Forest yesterday. And one of the things that they brought up was their partnership agreements with First Nations as well. So there's a lot of interest in like a three-way partnership, local government, First Nations, and the company. So good luck, everyone. Anyway, anything else anyone wants to say? Oh, Martin, yeah. Okay, your hand up, Martin.
Sorry, haven't taken it down.
Okay. Anyone else with any comments? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Director's reports, anything any director want? Director Colburn.
Hi, thank you, Chair, for your leniency here. I just wanted to bring up to this committee and as well as the fuller board that after today, because of the rollout of the First Nation Ehatisich vaccine and Island Health, that after today, Village of Dallas and most of the people here should be about 75% vaccinated. Great news, and I just wanted to officially come on here and thank Ehatisich for their portion of that and the rollout, and Island Health as well. At the end of the day, we should be good. So things are moving forward.
Okay. Don't forget to mention that at the board meeting. Okay. Any directors' reports at all? Anybody have anything they wanted to bring up? Okay, no new business. Addendum items, nothing. Closed session, termination.
Move termination.
Termination.
Okay, before I call the question on that one, I owe you a bit of an apology, Vice Chair Davis, for our discussion that preceded the board or our committee meeting.
Oh, well, I kind of brought it up, so I don't, we can have a private conversation. I think that might be more useful.
Yes. Yeah, I think it would be.
But
I just wanted to say, because we're both very passionate about the aquaculture issues, and yeah,
I find it
time and place.
I find it unfortunate that the other mayors have chosen to exclude me from these processes based on having a different political opinion, because if we can't have a full discourse, but that's not for this committee, so.
No. Okay. So on termination, call a question, all in favor? Oh, sorry. Anyone opposed? I noticed Director Kerr, you're opposed to termination? I said that with a smile, Ron. Yeah. Okay. And good luck on, and the keep us posted on the wood project.
Will do. Actually, I'm going to leave this meeting and head out and take a peek at it and see how it's coming. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you'll be pleased with it. It's going to turn out well.
Good.
A bigger project than I anticipated. a little different. It's got some challenges, but anyways, it'll be quite interesting.
Okay. Super. Look forward to seeing the finished product, and look forward to the celebration of our First Nation board members coming online. So, yeah, exciting times. So, nobody's opposed to termination, so the meeting is terminated. Director Colburn, you're looking puzzled. Did you want to have a closing remark?
Not at all. I was just going to say goodbye to everybody. Thanks so much.
Okay.
We'll see you
Thanks.
on board.
Hey, Julie.